Welcome to the Story Commentary Podcast. We hope you enjoy this episode. AITA for threatening to file a restraining order against my parents. My 22M parents are nut jobs. I have two siblings, Diana 19F and Luke 8M. My parents are 50M and 45F. My parents heavily favored my brother and I over our sister. Luke and I were showered in pocket money, gifts, etc., while Diana was expected to get a job as soon as it was legal for her to do so. They claimed they wanted to raise her to be strong and independent, but both of them have said they wish they had 3 sons because girls join their husband's family and leave their parents behind, so having them isn't worthwhile. My mother's pregnancy with Diana was also very difficult, and the damage that is caused meant that she had many miscarriages while trying to have Luke, all of which were blamed on Diana. Yes, I did stand up for Diana as much as I could until I moved out for college at 17. I tried to get other family members involved, but my parents are amazing at pretending they're not evil. As soon as Diana turned 18 in July 2021, she moved out. Like on the evening of her 18th birthday, I was receiving calls from my parents asking me if I knew where she was because she had disappeared. She had moved in with her friend Savannah's family, and a few months later, she started dating Savannah's older brother Michael in November 2021 25M, and she moved in with him in February 2022. Savannah's family adore my sister, and they were happy that she was dating their son. And I know nothing was going on before Diana was 18 because Michael lived abroad until September 2021. My parents disowned Diana in August 2021 when it became clear she wasn't moving back in with them, and they haven't asked me about her either. Now they're constantly harassing me to get them back into contact with her because they found out that she gave birth to her daughter at the beginning of this month. I didn't speak to them much after Diana moved out because they make me sick, but I still wanted to keep in touch with Luke, but the harassment has gotten relentless. They are demanding that I get Diana to speak to them because they have a right to know their granddaughter. They've showed up to my job and home, which scared me as I live with my boyfriend, and my family don't know that I'm into men. I don't know if they're homophobic, but their behavior scares me nonetheless. That prompted me to look into restraining orders, and I think it'll be possible to get one against them. Yesterday, they showed up to my home again, and I answered the door and told them very plainly that they weren't owed access to Diana's child, and that I was going to get a restraining order against them if they didn't stop harassing me. My grandmother called me that evening to tell me how heartless I was being because I was denying them access to 2/3 of their children, myself and Diana. She said that threatening to sever family relationships wasn't the way, and I was being a horrible person for not allowing them the option to reconcile with Diana. My grandmother is a very sensible person, so now I'm starting to feel like I've gone too far. Let's see what people have to say about this story. NTA. Your parents are horrible, and you are protecting your sister and niece. They have no rights here. Yes, being a grandparent is a privilege, not a right. Your sister doesn't want anything to do with them, and that is her right. Just like it's your right not to have them in your life. This is simply an action meet consequences situation. They raised her to be independent and self-sufficient, and she is. They should be happy. Besides, she had a daughter. They didn't care about their daughter. Why would they care about a granddaughter? You might want to give a heads up to your sis and brother-in-law about what your parents are trying to do. NTA. Keep protecting your sister and family and yourself. Yep. They don't think a daughter is worthwhile, so why would their daughter subject her own daughter to them? And also, the parents act like it's OP's job to facilitate a relationship between his sister and their parents. He can't make her see them, and why in the world would he try when he's always tried to protect her from their bullshit all these years? As a therapist, my heart breaks for your sister OP. The trauma she had to live with is palpable. I think a restraining order isn't a bad idea, but I've seen police fail to do anything for clients I've had, so please be prepared for that. Your parents' insistence and entitlement is genuinely making me worried that a restraining order may not do anything. I hope you can go to NC as soon as your brother gets away from them, too. I'm glad your sister has found happiness. Your parents need to be kept away because the baby will be their next victim. Document their harassment. Save screenshots of any text messages and save emails. You'll need it for evidence when applying for the restraining order and for keeping it in place. Keep it somewhere safe. NTA. And the OP's parents' logic makes no sense. The daughter gave birth to a daughter. By their stupid logic, they should want nothing to do with a girl. It is about control. I seriously wonder about parents like this. It seems like they got exactly what they wanted. Diana's gone from their lives. She spent her whole life hearing that she was worthless. They wish she was a boy, and seeing her brothers receive preferential treatment. Why would they even think they should have access to her children? Especially since that child is a daughter, which they find useless. Grandma needs to be fully looped into the truth of Diana's experience. OP, you may not want to open that basket of snakes with her, but she should understand how her child and their spouse created the situation in which they now find themselves. Thank you for standing by her. Good luck to you and Diana. NTA. You aren't denying them anything but access to you, and that's your right. Diana has the right to avoid them too. They don't have any relationship with her, so they have no relationship with their child now, so they have no grandparents' rights. Diana's far safer never to let them meet the baby if she doesn't want them in her life and she has a newborn. She doesn't need the stress they'd bring. Continue to be a good brother. Don't give them her contact. Don't try to convince her to talk to them or give them pictures. Definitely don't surprise her with their presence in any way. Your grandmother is not being sensible. She's biased in favor of your parents and values keeping them happy over a relationship with you and your sister. Good luck with the restraining order. Edit. I'm not a lawyer, just want to be clear that the grandparents' rights info may be more nuanced, and if they did try something like that, your sister would need a lawyer. They can't make you do anything on that basis, though. NTA. So they neglect and ignore their daughter because daughters always join their husband's family, and when she does, they're surprised. Then they harass you to get them back into her life because she now has something they want access to, granddaughter, and wonder why you look into a restraining order. And then involve your grandparents because everything isn't going their way. You are so not the a-hole. They really, really need to take a long, hard look at their behavior and to realize the root of their problems is themselves. What kills me most about this is the grandparents are fighting for, wait for it, rights to see their granddaughter. They've already proven what they think of female offspring. Hell, they disowned their only daughter for her lack of penis. What makes anyone think they'd treat the baby any different in time? These are the worst parents. They don't deserve to be grandparents, and OP, you're spectacular for staying firm on this and keeping your sis and niece safe. NTA, the restraining order is a great idea. Here's some commentary from some friends.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're unpacking a really intense family situation that one of you brought to our attention.
Yeah, this one's quite something.
It all kicked off with a Reddit post titled "Against My Parents." It's from a 22-year-old guy, let's just call him OP.
And it's definitely more than just, a typical family argument. It really gets into the weeds of favoritism, boundaries.
Absolutely. It's a deep look into, well, the damage that kind of stuff can do,
Yeah.
and the really hard choices people end up facing.
Exactly. What stood out to me right away was how it shows the long shadow these early family dynamics cast, how that unequal treatment shapes things years later.
For sure. So OP doesn't mince words. He calls a parents nut jobs right off the bat.
Strong language tells you something immediately.
And he describes this long history where he and his little brother Luke, who's 8, now were very clearly the favorites over their older sister Diana. She's 19.
Big time favoritism, it sounds like.
Yeah, like lavish gifts, pocket money for the boys. But Diana, she was expected to get a job the second she turned 16, basically.
Wow. That's a stark contrast.
It really paints a picture, doesn't it? Such an imbalance.
And the parents' reasoning or their excuse for it, that's revealing too.
Right. They claimed they wanted Diana to be, strong and independent.
While also saying something else entirely.
Exactly. They openly said they wish they'd had 3 sons because, and this is a quote, daughters join their husband's family and leave their parents behind, so having them isn't worthwhile.
Oof. That's incredibly harsh, just explicitly devaluing her like that.
It's pretty shocking. And there's more. Apparently the mom had a really tough pregnancy with Diana.
Okay.
And later, when she had miscarriages trying for Luke, they actually blamed Diana for them.
They blamed Diana, a child. Wow.
Imagine carrying that. Opie says he tried, to support Diana when they were younger, before he went up to college at 17.
So he saw it happening?
Clearly. He even tried to get other relatives to see it, but he said his parents are amazing at pretending they're not evil to everyone else.
That sounds familiar. That ability to maintain a sort of public face versus the private reality. Very common in dysfunctional systems.
Creates this whole hidden world, right? Makes it so isolating for Diana, I imagine.
Absolutely, because her reality is constantly being denied or just unseen by others.
Okay, so let's fast forward. July 2021, Diana turns 18.
And she's out.
Immediately.
Yeah.
Like that same evening, she moves out. OP starts getting these frantic calls from the parents. Where is she?
Panic mode.
Totally. She moved in with her friend, Savannah, and her family. Sounds like they were really supportive.
Good for her, finding a safe place.
Then, a few months later, November 2021, she starts dating Savannah's older brother, Michael. He's 25.
Okay.
And by February 2022, she moves in with him. But, and this is important timing-wise.
Yeah, what's the detail?
Michael was living abroad until September 2021.
Ah, okay. So any idea the parents might have had that she left for him before she was 18?
Doesn't hold water. The timeline makes that clear. He wasn't even around then.
Got it. That context is crucial. So how did the parents react once it was clear Diana wasn't just, staying over at a friend's for a night?
Well, when she didn't come back, they disowned her. That was August 2021.
Disowned her, just like that.
Yeah. And then, nothing. For over 2 years, no calls, no questions about how she was doing, complete radio silence from their end.
A clean break initiated by them until
now. The big catalyst.
Which is often the arrival of a grandchild, isn't it?
Bingo. Diana gave birth to a daughter just at the beginning of this month, and suddenly
Everything changes. They want back in.
Oh yeah, big time. They're claiming they have a right to know their granddaughter.
All right. Interesting word choice.
And this sudden desire has turned into, well, what OP calls relentless harassment against him.
Against OP, not Diana.
Against OP. They're constantly demanding he make Diana talk to them, set up a meeting.
Using him as the go-between. Or trying to.
And it's escalating. They've shown up at his job, at his home.
Wow, okay. That's crossing serious lines.
And there's another layer here for OP. He lives with his boyfriend, but his family doesn't know he's gay.
Oh, right. So them showing up unannounced is extra stressful, potentially outing him.
Exactly. He's genuinely scared about how they'd react, especially if they found out like that.
Understandably. This escalation, showing up like that, it really screams desperation, maybe a loss of control.
Feels like it.
The baby arrives, and suddenly they feel entitled again. They think they can pressure OP, manipulate the situation.
And completely ignore Diana's obvious desire for no contact.
Exactly. It still shows zero respect for her boundaries or her autonomy. It's all about what they want.
So this harassment is pushed OP to a pretty serious point. He's looking into restraining orders.
That's a big step within a family. Shows how bad things have gotten.
Yeah. He actually told his parents right before he posted on Reddit, look, you are not entitled to see Diana's child, and if you don't stop harassing me, I will get a restraining order.
Drawing a clear line. Good for him, but also, what a position to be in.
It really is. It signals just how much distress he's under, when legal action feels like the only option left.
Definitely. When basic communication and boundary setting just completely fail.
Okay, but then there's a twist, or maybe a complication.
Uh-oh. What?
His grandmother called him.
The parent's mom.
Yeah. And OP describes her as usually being a very sensible person.
Which makes her intervention carry more weight, I guess.
Right. She called him up and basically accused him of being heartless.
Heartless for what?
For, in her words, denying his parents access to children, meaning OP and Diana.
Wow. Framing it like he's the one denying access.
Yep. And she said threatening to, quote, sever family relationships is wrong, and that he's being a horrible person for not helping them reconcile with Diana.
That's tough. That pull of the traditional family narrative, isn't it? Keep the family together no matter what.
Seems like it.
But it makes you wonder, does the grandmother actually know the full story? Does she understand why Diana cut contact? The years of mistreatment?
That's a huge question. OP didn't say.
Because sometimes, well-meaning relatives can end up doing more harm by pushing for reconciliation without understanding the depth of the damage. They prioritize the idea of family over the actual well-being of the individuals.
That really hits home. And it connects to what people were saying on the Reddit thread itself.
What was the general consensus there?
Overwhelmingly NTA, not the a-hole. Like landslide support for OP.
Okay, so people saw the parents' behavior as the root cause.
Absolutely. The main arguments were grandparenting is a privilege not a right. Diana has every right to maintain no contact. The parents basically earn this outcome with their past actions.
Actions have consequences. Simple as that, really.
And a lot of people were worried about the baby.
Yeah, I can see that. If they treated Diana that way.
Exactly. Fear that the granddaughter would just be the next victim in their pattern. People also pointed out the hypocrisy,
How so?
Well, the parents explicitly said daughters weren't worthwhile, but now they desperately want access to their granddaughter. It doesn't add up.
Right. What's the real motivation there? Is it genuine interest or something else? Control, maybe.
That came up too, a lot. Someone put it really bluntly.
Right.
They don't think a daughter is worthwhile. So why would their daughter subject her own daughter to them? Makes sense.
It does. What other advice did people give OP?
Lots of emphasis on protecting Diana and the niece. And practical stuff like document everything, every call, every time they show up. Get evidence for that potential restraining order.
Smart. That documentation is key in legal matters.
There was also a really interesting comment, apparently from a therapist.
Oh, yeah. What did they say? They acknowledged a restraining order might be necessary for OP's safety, but also cautioned it might not actually change the parent's underlying behavior or mindset.
That's a sobering thought. Protects him, but doesn't fix them.
Right. And they also expressed hope for the younger brother Luke still living in that house, hoping he eventually finds a way out too.
God, yeah. You forget he's still in the middle of it all.
It shows how these things affect the whole family system.
People also echoed that thought about the grandmother maybe not knowing the full extent of Diana's history.
Shielded from the worst of it, perhaps? Or choosing not to see?
Could be. And yeah, that idea of control being the parent's main driver came up again and again.
It often is in these dynamics.
And one commenter had a really kind of chilling theory.
What was that?
They suggested the parents might suddenly be interested because Diana, having a daughter, perhaps at a young age in their view, means she's now fulfilling what they see as a woman's proper, maybe subservient role.
Whoa. Okay, that's dark. But it weirdly aligns with their previous statements about daughters joining husbands' families. Like, okay, now she's doing what she's supposed to do so we can engage.
It's a disturbing possibility, isn't it? But it fits the pattern, maybe.
It highlights just how potentially manipulative and deeply ingrained their views might be.
The Reddit thread also touched on the legal side, the grandparents' rights stuff.
Always a tricky area. Varies a lot by location.
Right. The consensus was Diana should probably talk to a lawyer if her parents actually try to pursue legal action for access.
But they can't force OP to do anything.
Exactly. He's under no legal obligation to help them. And someone even jokingly suggested OP should just come out to his parents.
Joking, but maybe. Thinking it might get him disowned and solve his immediate harassment problem.
Pretty much. A dark humor suggestion, but it shows the desperation, I guess.
So wrapping this all up, when we look at this whole situation you brought us, wow, several things really jump out.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It's just such a clear and painful example of the long-term harm caused by that kind of parental favoritism and those really discriminatory beliefs.
Right. Diana cutting contact. That wasn't out of the blue. It was a direct result of years of being treated badly.
Absolutely. And she has every right to protect herself and her new baby from that. Full stop.
And poor OP is just stuck in the middle, isn't he? Trying to support his sister, deal with his own difficult parents, and now this awful harassment, plus the fear about being outed.
It's an incredibly stressful position. And the grandmother's call, it just highlights that societal pressure, that family-first idea, even when family is the source of the harm.
Yeah, that expectation can be so powerful, even when it's unhealthy. As you're listening and trying to make sense of this, you really see how these toxic patterns ripple outwards, don't you? Affecting everyone.
Definitely. For someone trying to understand these complex dynamics, this case lays it bare. Past actions creating present consequences. OP is balancing loyalty, fear, pressure. It's a mess.
It really makes you think about that whole idea of family obligation.
Where's the line?
Exactly. So here's something to chew on. That tension between family duty and your own well-being, or the well-being of someone you care about. When does trying to reconcile or trying to keep the peace actually become harmful? And what responsibility do we ultimately have to protect ourselves and maybe others from relationships that damage us, even if they're family?
That's the core question, isn't it?
It really is. Something to think about long after this deep dive ends.
What are your thoughts on this situation? Would you do the same? Leave your comments and commentary in the comments section. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, like and subscribe. Thank you.